Angel Reese just found out what Caitlin Clark is getting paid under the new WNBA deal, and the reaction was exactly what you'd expect from someone who's been chasing Clark's shadow since college. Clark's jumping to $528,000 in base salary. Aaliyah Boston's going to $574,000. And Reese? She's sitting at $350,000, which sounds like a lot until you compare her with everyone else that Reese thinks she's better than. The market has spoken, and Reese is throwing a major tantrum about it. How much do you think Reese really deserves? Let me know down in the comments below.
Caitlin Clark is due for a massive payday. Last year on the rookie scale, she made 85 grand. This year, with the new CBA, courtesy of CC22, she's going to be making well over $500,000.
So let's talk about the actual numbers, because $528,000 versus $350,000 isn't just a gap. It's the WNBA putting a dollar amount on what Angel Reese's 2 years of production are actually worth compared to Caitlin Clark's. And Reese is not taking it well. The new collective bargaining agreement restructured WNBA salaries around two things: where you got drafted and whether you earned all WNBA honors during your rookie contract. Clark hit both. Aaliyah Boston hit both. Reese hit one, the draft slot, and even there she came in at 7th overall, which is why Cameron Brink at 2nd overall is pulling $493,000, and Sonia Citron at 3rd overall is pulling $436,000, and Reese is sitting below both of them at $350,000. Reese noticed immediately, with her fans pointing out that Angel making less than Cam and Sonia is, quote, crazy work.
Notable projected WNBA salaries per new CBA. Aaliyah Boston, and this is what they're currently making versus what they will make. And I'm going to tell you, there's some... It's funny seeing the amount of people that's about to make more money than Angel Reese. Angel Reese is punching air right now. Barbie is punching air. Between her new salary and nobody showing up to see her at Barbie Fest, whoa, she's not happy at all. I gotta tell you, she's upset.
Boston's number is the one that really tells you how the epic clause works. She jumped from $94,000 to $574,000, and that's not a raise. That's the contract formally reclassifying her entire value based on back-to-back All-WNBA selections and 2 seasons of two-way production that makes Indiana's offense and defense run differently when she's on the floor. The EPIC clause, which stands for Exceptional Performance on Initial Contract, kicks in when a player earns All-WNBA honors within their first 3 seasons, and it puts them on an accelerated path to max eligibility. Clark earned first-team All-WNBA in 2024, her rookie year, so she's already on track to hit max eligibility in 2027. That's the clause doing exactly what it's supposed to do.
With this new CBA, Clark's expected to get a huge increase in salary along with other stars as broken down by Spotrac. We went over the numbers earlier. In her first years in the WNBA, Clark's made $76,000 and $78,000 respectively. This massive jump has to do with accolades that Clark has won in previous seasons. Clark's new salary brought in a host of reactions online. Big pay increase for the number of Fever stars, Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston.
Reese
How
came
the
into
F
the
is
league
Cameron
with a
making
national
more than Angel
championship
Reese?
Ring, a Reebok deal already
I don't
signed,
know.
and more social
okay.
media buzz than almost
We'll see
any
here.
rookie
We'll
in
see.
recent memory.
Angel Reese,
And none of
$1
that
for
moved the
every
needle on her
missed shot and
salary tier
rebound.
because the CBA
Nice.
doesn't pay for buzz.
Ooh.
It pays for all WNBA production, and Reese hasn't produced an all WNBA selection yet. Her $350,000 is a real jump from the $75,000 she earned as a rookie, so it's not like the league ignored her entirely, but the gap between her number and Clark's number isn't random or political. It's a formula, and the formula currently puts Clark $178,000 ahead of Reese in base salary because Clark has the first-team selection and Reese doesn't. Reese's reaction to all of this came out publicly, and we'll get into exactly what she said in a bit, but understand that her frustration isn't purely about the money. It's about what the salary document means, which is that 2 years into their professional careers, the league has formally ranked their production, and Reese landed well below not just Clark but also Boston and 2 other players from the same draft class. And if the base salary gap feels uncomfortable for Reese right now, what's happening in the endorsement world makes $178,000 look like a rounding error. "62 records in her freshman year of college alone, and then Clark walked into the WNBA and didn't slow down. Her first 2 professional seasons produced rookie records in assists, scoring, and playmaking. She earned all WNBA first-team honors in year 1, went to the All-Star game, and then went and played for Team USA, where her assist and scoring efficiency put her among the best players anywhere in the world, not just the league. And what was Reese doing in that same stretch? Rebounding, mostly. Which sounds fine until you look closer and notice that analysts were tracking something specific. A massive chunk of Reese's offensive rebounds came directly off her own missed shots.
It's just a fact. She is, it's more than a fact. She is not good at layups. But I was looking at her stats. I jotted some down right here, and she shoots an abysmal 39% from the field. She shot below 50% on shots less than 5 feet away, which is bad. And even worse than that is that shots from 5 to 9 feet, 13%.
She converted just 31.5% of her layups in her second season, while attempting the 3rd most in the entire WNBA. And people were writing that she was missing, quote, bunnies at a rate that would get a middle school player benched. So the rebound numbers look big on the stat sheet, but a lot of those boards existed because Reese kept missing shots she should have made. And efficiency-minded coaches and sponsors both know how to read that.
This is like WNBA leveling up and all eyes on her now. I think that she knows that she has to completely restructure her form, because that is not the way to be efficient in the post position that she is in. At the post position that she's in, a layup is supposed to be a given. She needs to improve her touch around the rim, like all over the place, but she seems to take these desperation shots.
Clark's production doesn't just show up in her own box score either, and that's what separates her from almost everyone else in the league right now. Her playmaking opens up Aaliyah Boston in the post because defenses can't sag off Clark without giving up threes. Kelsey Mitchell gets cleaner driving lanes because 2 defenders are tracking Clark off the ball. Lexi Hall and Sophie Cunningham get wide open looks from the perimeter because Clark pulls so much defensive attention. That system-wide impact shows up in win totals, not just individual stats, and that's what teams and brands are actually paying for. Reese's availability was also a problem. Her so-called back injury dragged through the season with vague day-to-day updates and no clear medical timeline, and at one point she was spotted out promoting her Reebok shoes while still listed as sidelined, which didn't sit well with anyone paying attention. When Clark dealt with injuries, the Fever put out clear updates immediately. That contrast in professionalism matters to brands deciding who to bet on for an 8-year window.
Nothing but a mystery surrounds Angel Reese. Angel Reese has taken this season off to focus on her off-court endeavors and to avoid these losses that the Chicago Sky are accumulating, to avoid them appearing on her resume. Angel Reese doesn't really care about basketball.
Nike looked at Clark's 2-season arc, the arena attendance numbers, the TV ratings bumps, and signed her to an 8-year, $28 million footwear deal that no other WNBA player has come close to. That deal didn't come from hype. It came from 2 years of hard data showing her name moves product and fills seats. Reebok went with Reese, launched the shoe with real marketing energy, and then watched it sit on shelves for months without selling out. The marketing spend has quietly dried up. You can see it just by watching where the ads aren't running anymore. Nike, on the other hand, is ramping up everything around Clark, expanding the line, and industry insiders expect any Clark-specific Nike release to sell out within minutes.
Wow, look, it says Caitlin Clark logo cookies to coffee to shooting in Duncan on CC logo backgrounds. Nike WHQ is dripped out with CC stuff. I ain't lying, man. We ain't seen nothing like this since Michael Jordan came, bro. Nike, like, people was feeling the type of way about Nike, man, but Nike is showing out for Caitlin, dog. I don't even think they did all this shit for LeBron. I just gotta be honest, man. They is showing out for Caitlin Clark.
State Farm started running ads in 1922, and for over 100 years they never once signed a female athlete to represent the brand. Then Clark walked in, and that streak ended immediately. That's not a small thing. A company that spent a century building its advertising identity in one direction looked at Clark's numbers and changed course.
Caitlin Clark from the logo!
You know, life would be easier if I could do everything from the logo.
Allow me to assist.
Pickles. It worked! Buckets. Now that's a tomato. Sheboygan.
The answer is Sheboygan.
They match. P-E-Z-O-L.
Bottom row?
From the logo. State Farm with the assist.
So let's talk about what that portfolio actually looks like now, because Nike at $28 million over 8 years is just the starting point. Gatorade signed her to a deal reported at $50 million, and they launched a signature flavor called Rainberry to go with it. Rainberry bottles sold out at the retail level fast enough that the sellout itself became a news story, and Gatorade doesn't build signature flavors around athletes who are just trending online. They do it for athletes whose names move product off shelves, and the velocity on Rainberry proved Clark's name does exactly that. Wilson's decision is the one that really puts everything in perspective, because Wilson's been making sports equipment since the early 1900s, and the last time they built a full signature line around a single person was Michael Jordan. Not another WNBA player. Not a recent NBA star. Michael Jordan. Wilson looked at their entire history and decided Clark's commercial pull justified doing it again, and that tells you more about where her market value sits than any salary number could.
When you strip away the noise and the bright lights, it's just the game you loved as a kid.
Chanted defense by the Clark fans. 6 on the shot clock. Clark a deep 3.
Feet on the hardwood, basketball in hand, guiding you, inspiring you, working on the player you dream to be. Because the ball will always bring you back to your favorite place.
Forbes ranked her 4th on their most powerful women in sports list, which put her next to franchise owners and billionaires, not just other athletes. Sportico named her the most influential female athlete in 2025. Both of those rankings run on revenue generation and brand impact data, not fan polls or social media follower counts, so when Clark shows up that high, it's because the numbers behind her name are that big. And then she sat front row at Prada alongside Eileen Gu. Prada doesn't hand out front row seats as a courtesy. Every person in that front row generates press coverage and moves product for the brand. And Clark earned that seat because her reach now runs into spaces that have nothing to do with basketball. Reese's response to the Forbes ranking and the Prada appearance followed the exact same pattern she's been running since Clark was at Iowa. Public dismissiveness that reads as jealousy to fans and as instability to sponsors. Brands track that kind of thing carefully. They run sentiment analysis. They look at how an athlete's public behavior affects their existing customer base, and they factor in whether the association creates liability. Clark's brand is built on consistent production and professionalism, which sponsors find predictable and safe to invest in. Reese's brand runs on controversy and social media noise, and the commercial world has been quietly stepping back from that for a while now, with Reebok leading the retreat.
You just take this lady right here. You may be like, well, Rhodes, who is this? This is Gail Benson. She is the owner of the New Orleans Saints and the New Orleans Pelicans in the National Football League and in the NBA. The two teams now carry a combined valuation of $8.35 billion. That's billion with a B, by the way. While Benson herself has an estimated net worth of $7.9 billion.
None of this started with the new CBA. Reese and Clark have been circling each other in the public conversation since their college days, when Reese was at LSU and Clark was at Iowa, and the media kept framing them as two players competing for the same crown. The media framing was convenient, but the endorsement market never really bought it, and the salary numbers that just dropped are the first official document that makes the gap impossible to spin. Reese's pattern of publicly minimizing Clark goes back years. Every time Clark hit a milestone, Reese found a way to insert herself into the conversation, either by claiming equal credit, questioning the attention Clark received, or positioning herself as just as important to women's basketball's growth. Do that once, and it's a bad day. Do it consistently across 2 college seasons and 2 professional seasons, and sponsors start logging it as a personality trait, not a one-time mistake.
Caitlin Clark is the most powerful woman in not just basketball, but women's sports, all of women's sports. I think more so than Simone Biles, Serena, Coco, all of them. You name it. There is one person that is bringing people to television screens, and that's her on the screen, Caitlin Clark.
And sponsors do log it. They're not just looking at follower counts and highlight reels when they decide who gets the big deal. They run sentiment analysis on how fans respond to an athlete's public behavior. They look at how a brand association lands with their existing customer base. And they track whether an athlete creates liability for the brand over time. Reese's track record on that last point has been consistently messy, and the commercial world has been quietly adjusting to that reality for a while now. Reebok's situation is the clearest example of what happens when a brand bets on an athlete and the sales data doesn't follow. Reebok went in with real money and real marketing energy, launched the shoe with momentum, and then watched it sit on shelves for months. The marketing spend dried up. The ads stopped running. The shoe ended up discounted at retailers while Reebok went quiet on the whole campaign, which is not what a brand does when a partnership is going well.
Angel Reese, there's nothing that she does where you go, did you see her? Other than she plays really, really hard, and I liken her game to Moses Malone. Moses Malone was relentless. So it's not that I don't appreciate who she is or how she plays. There is no one like Caitlin Clark in the history of the WNBA.
Nike's moving in the exact opposite direction with Clark, ramping up spend, expanding the product line, and treating the Clark deal as one of their priority investments in women's sports right now. 2 brands, 2 athletes, 2 completely different commercial outcomes. And the difference isn't luck or timing.
This is a phenomenon. Caitlin Clark is a phenomenon.
So when Reese went public claiming she deserves $1 million salary, it landed awkwardly because her Reebok shoe is sitting in discount bins, her all-WNBA resume is empty, and the brand that bet on her biggest is pulling back. That's not a media narrative built against her. That's a market responding to 2 years of sales data and public behavior combined. Clark's Nike deal is worth $28 million. Reese's Reebok shoe couldn't sell out. Those 2 facts, sitting next to each other, say more than any opinion piece could. And Reese's $1 million demand is about to run straight into the reality of what she actually said publicly when the salary numbers dropped.
Caitlin Clark is the most powerful woman in not just basketball, but women's sports, all of women's sports. I think more so than Simone Biles, Serena, Coco, all of them. You name it. There is one person that is bringing people to television screens, and that's her on the screen, Caitlin Clark.
Reese went on social media and declared she deserves $1 million. That's the tantrum. Not a subtle dig, not a vague complaint about the league. A straight-up public demand for $1 million salary from a player whose signature shoe is sitting in discount bins and whose all-WNBA resume is completely blank. The timing couldn't have been worse for her, because the salary numbers dropped right alongside the Forbes Most Powerful Women in Sports list that put Clark at number 4. And Reese's reaction to both landing in the same news cycle was to go loud instead of going to work. And that's the part that makes sponsors nervous. Brands already hesitant about Reese's public behavior watched her respond to a market signal, a contractual document spelling out exactly what her production is worth right now, with a public grievance instead of a plan. Nike, Gatorade, State Farm, and Wilson are all watching that too, and what they saw confirmed why they went with Clark instead. Clark's response to everything Reese has thrown at her publicly over the past 2 years has been to play basketball, show up for Team USA, and keep signing deals. And that restraint is exactly what those brands paid for.
Caitlin Clark brings money to the area when she comes to town. Fans know the deal. The scheduling conflict strikes again.
The epic clause means Clark's salary isn't staying at $528,000 for long either. She's already max eligible by 2027 based on her first-team All-WNBA selection in her rookie year, and if she earns All-WNBA honors again in 2026, which is a reasonable expectation given her first 2 seasons, the next salary escalator kicks in, and she's projected to hit a supermax contract, potentially worth $1.7 million by 2028. Reese demanding $1 million publicly while sitting at $350,000 with no All-WNBA selections is one thing, but Clark is on a contractual path to nearly double that $1 million number, and the gap between them gets wider with every season Clark performs at that level. Indiana heading into 2026 with Clark, Aaliyah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell, Lexi Hull, and Sophie Cunningham all under contract isn't just a TV ratings story anymore. That roster is a legitimate championship conversation, and a franchise that pays Clark $528,000 in base salary while she's pulling $28 million Nike deals and $50 million Gatorade partnerships into the women's basketball conversation is getting an extraordinary return on that contract number.
Well, I mean, look, dude, she's the singular offensive engine talent in the history of the sport on the women's side of the game. And when you take it to the men's side, I always say it all the time, her vision and playmaking is on par with anyone I've ever seen.
Reese's path back from where she is requires consistent availability, an All-WNBA selection, and a complete reset of how she handles herself publicly, and none of those things happen in one offseason, especially not when Reebok is already pulling back its investment in her shoe line. Every public tantrum she throws makes the next brand conversation harder, and the brands that were already on the fence about her toxicity now have another data point to factor in. Everything landed in the same news cycle: the CBA salaries, Clark's Forbes ranking, the Gatorade sellout, and Reese's shoe sitting marked down at retail. Together, they drew a clear line between two paths, and every young player coming up through college right now can see exactly where each path leads. 5 years ago, $528,000 in base salary plus a $28 million Nike deal wasn't something any female basketball player could realistically expect. Clark didn't get lucky to reach those numbers. She broke 62 records, earned first-team All-WNBA as a rookie, and signed with brands that tracked her actual sales data. And Indiana's 2026 roster is built to go even further. How much do you think Reese really deserves? Let me know down in the comments below. Like, subscribe, and turn on all notifications so you never miss out. Click the video on the screen, and we will see you in the next one.